This is a Hot Pie Media original.
It's Daniela Dasuta, who is a wine educator, expert. What else do I add to that? And I apologize for the song. I know that you're too young to know that song, but it's really horrific and dirty and sexual, and I apologize.
Well, it's a nice change from the,
the harp music?
I forgot
smooth
that. Jazz.
I forgot the harp.
So I'm actually pleasantly surprised by this.
Man, we got to break out the harp. What the heck are we planning here?
What to add? I'm a private wine buyer.
Okay.
So I manage a list of private clients, and I also am a French wine ambassador. I do a lot of presentations on French wines, both private and public.
All right. So you came today, of course, bringing Topo Chico, which is really cool for which I appreciate. I was anticipating having a big red Cabernet and then going for a nice long run when it's 100 degrees. So what are we going to do?
We're just going to talk about it, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Were you worried about me? I mean, you feel like maybe last time I was slightly overserved and got over my skis? I got a little over my skis.
No, well, I was planning on bringing a nice little Syrah, but I drank it all last night.
Nice.
So
yeah, I've been there.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. Okay, so, you do what you want. You talk about what you want. Of course, I'll try to steer it back to big reds, and then you'll discourage me from doing that. So I always think it's helpful that you tell people how to taste and how to order. I don't know why I'm stuck on that. I just watch people struggle and say, I don't know, give me a house, whatever. And it just seems like the average person cannot break through, as you say, the confidence or being upfront enough to say what they want.
Sure.
Okay.
And I think most people struggle with that. I think this is what I do for a living, is encourage people to have the confidence to do that and also hone their tasting skills. It's actually really easy to become a very good taster.
Okay.
I think a lot of people don't know that. They come up to me and they're very intimidated and they say, I just don't know a lot about wine. I don't know how to taste it, and I'll never have a good palate. And to me, it's just that they haven't practiced and they haven't realized that they are phenomenal. I think as long as your taste buds aren't destroyed somehow, you can become a great taster. And so I'd recommend, tasting with a tasting wheel a lot of times in order to establish what you do like.
Tasting wheel
you can order essentially or print off for free online a wheel that has all of these different flavor and aroma descriptors, and those allow you to have a vernacular around wine. Instead of smelling something and go, I like this smell, or I don't like this smell, and I don't know what it is, or it's on the tip of my tongue, you have something to refer back to, which is really lovely.
Help people get over the hump of that, because I used to find myself in the same position most people are in, and that is you don't want to be that person. I mean, now you're going to have a printed out little wheel on your table.
Well, no, you do it at home. I'm saying if you want to learn more about wine, and if you want to have the confidence to understand wine in general, you're going to have to take some time at home and devote a little bit of study to it. And this is not unpleasant study.
No, exactly.
You're sitting at home drinking wine and starting to understand it. So my advice is just take a few minutes, especially if you're an avid wine drinker, if you're a daily wine drinker, start analyzing the wines that you have at home. Start learning some different terms around wine, like acid and tannin, especially in red wines. We're going to talk about that. And start getting curious, because I think a lot of people expect there to be a cure-all, fix-all. Hey, can you give me the secret? And the secret is start paying attention to what you're drinking, I think.
Yeah,
I think we can...
You like what you like. The mistake is not working hard at finding out what you like.
And I don't even think it's working hard.
Okay, sorry.
I think it's working smart
and pleasantly
and having
working.
fun with it.
Yeah, right.
And I think there's a lot of people just say, well, I'll never learn it, and that's that, and I'll always have this particular palate. That's fine, but for the people who are ready to take that next step, and I'm here too. I mean, I'm a great resource for what type of tasting wheel should I get. what should I start to focus on? And to me, I think once you become a semi-decent taster, the world just opens up for you, and it becomes this magical place where there's more than just the basic varieties, and you actually know what to ask for in a restaurant.
Right. Because you're going to spend the money anyway.
Right.
I mean, people are ordering. I mean, it's not people are drinking less wine. They're drinking as much wine. You might as well find your way to something that you really, really like.
And why Russian roulette it when you can have a little bit of knowledge that catapults you to the next level, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing with everything, I think. It just keeps slipping off my head.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I think...
No, that's helpful. I just think that I think people, as you know, I mean, you deal with it all the time. You try to teach people to break through, and that is they're intimidated. And and one of the things I think you've said before, that people that know wine like to talk to you and help you about wine. I mean, people seem to be terrified of talking with their server.
Yep, they are. And I teach level 1 classes all the time. So when people are speaking to me, even having a basic conversation, and they ask, what do you do? I'm in wine. They automatically shrink up. And I'm like, dude, I deal with level 1 people who have no idea about any. Level 1, you start with wine is made out of grapes. Like, that's the basic information. And then you go from there. So I've heard it all. I've seen it all. And then when my students emerge from these classes, these level 1 courses, they're glowing. They're like, Daniela, I tasted this, or I went home and I bought this, and I just, my world again transformed. Yeah. And I was so excited. I had this awareness. So I don't know. I think that's really special.
All right. So what do we got? Since you have Topo Chico, what are we going to do now?
We're going to talk about wines. We're going to talk about red wine in general. I think that's what you wanted to discuss. Yeah. It's getting a little chillier.
A little cooler.
It was 59 degrees this morning, which is to us like winter.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, and let's also talk about the ageability of red wines and wines in general, because I think, and when I was first starting out even, I had a collection of about 100 bottles, and I thought that all of these bottles could age. It's a big myth that all wine can age. In fact, that's not the case at all. There are particular wines that can better than others, and I'd love to be able to discuss that with listeners who maybe do want to start a mini collection, or maybe do have 30 bottles in a wine fridge.
Do you recommend, I think you've done it before, you recommend a wine fridge, right? Or not?
I do for long-term storage. Okay. I actually am guilty of not having a wine fridge because I go through my wine so quickly. Yeah. I think if you're aging for longer than 2 or 3 years, it's nice to have a wine fridge. But otherwise, or if your house, apartment, wherever you're living,
you can get the small ones though. I mean, even the 6-bottle ones. Yeah. I mean, that's good enough.
And what's so great about those two, even for if you're not storing them long term, is the fact that they keep your wine at temperature. So when you take it out, it's what it should be consumed at.
Okay. And the temperature should be?
It depends on the wine.
Okay. Well, you got to mention that to people, because I think that's an area I think a lot of us are confused by that.
Agreed. So a lot of them have dual levels. Yeah. And you can program temperatures to be different on each level. So personally, I would keep my whites at around 45, and I would keep my reds at around 55, and that's kind of the average temperature. Okay. If I have sparkling in there, then I'd probably put it in the fridge before I'm serving it so that it's extra cold, because you don't want it to explode. Sparkling needs to be really, really chilled.
Okay.
So that would be my rule of thumb. Okay. Also, if you are starting a collection, there's a few things to be aware of. First of all, like I said, not all wines can age. And I think a great thing to be aware of is, number one, what's the enclosure on your bottle? I think a lot of us think that screw caps are inferior to corks, and that is, unfortunately, it's a myth propagated by... I'm not sure where that got started, actually.
Who would stand to gain by that, but okay.
Well, the point is that a lot of screw cap wines are perhaps cheaper. And perhaps lesser quality than wines that are
right, but you're saying cork. It really doesn't matter.
It doesn't. The cork versus screw cap does not indicate quality.
Okay.
It indicates ageability, in my opinion.
Okay.
So I see wines under screw cap that are not built for long-term aging, because screw cap is an inert vessel. It does not allow oxygen in, and it preserves the freshness and the fruitiness of those wines.
Okay.
So, for instance, most New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs are going to be under screw cap. Both New Zealand and Australia are big proponents of screw caps, but the fact of the matter is that a lot of them are creating, many producers in those countries are creating wines that are meant for you to pop open immediately.
What does corked mean?
Corked?
Yeah.
Like the term?
Yeah. I mean, you could be sitting around a wine bar, and I'll bet you somebody is either right or wrong or wants to act cool or whatever, and just say, oh, it may be corked. Or, what does that mean?
Yeah, so Cork Taint, it's really referring to Cork Taint, which is a component, it's called TCA, it's trichloroanisole, and it makes the wine smell like wet newspaper, wet dog, kind of that musty smell. And that compound is found on cork bark, but it also, once it's in your winery, it's on every surface.
I mean, so I could go buy some bottles of wine, and it's possible that I get an outlier that is tainted.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's rarer and rarer because they're trying to sanitize corks more and more.
Okay.
There's a lot of companies that are investing millions of dollars in technology that allows you to break down cork and remove those traces of cork taint.
Right.
Also, screw caps, it's pretty impossible unless the cork taint was already in your winery to get cork taint out of a screw cap.
Yeah, I didn't mean to throw you off, but I think a lot of people, you hear the term, and I didn't know the technical scientific portion of it, so that makes sense.
Most people, when they talk about faults, if they smell something funny in a wine, they'll say it's corked.
Yeah.
And it's mostly incorrect.
Okay.
Cork taint is a very specific fault. If it smells like vinegar, that's oxidation. So I would say this wine is oxidized.
Okay.
It smells vinegary, and that's the most common fault because most times people leave their wines open for more than 2 or 3 days and they get oxidized.
Okay.
That's not cork taint.
Yeah, good to know.
Anyway, going back to closures, cork it's porous, and then it allows a little bit of oxygen to enter into the bottle over time, and it evolves it. So it will essentially, you'll start with this really fresh, fruity wine that is newly bottled and young, and then over time, if the wine is meant to age, the oxygen will start to develop the flavor. So you'll start with like fresh blackberry, for instance, and you'll end up maybe after 5 or 10 years with dried blackberry. So it'll turn the fruits from fresh to dry. It'll start to develop aging aromas like tobacco and leather and things like that. So if you like earthier
being older
notes,
being older and aged doesn't automatically make it better. Yeah.
it depends on the wine. If it's meant to age, then yes. And if it's not meant to age, then it's pretty disastrous for
What's
the wine.
meant to age?
Good question.
Thank you.
So let's talk about ageability.
No, back up for a second. The cork thing. If you had, I know you're a pro, but if you had a date that smelled the cork, what would you do?
Nothing, because it's already intimidating to be out with me drinking wine.
Well, no, let's pretend. Okay, I thought you were going to say you get up and walk away because he's a doofus.
Yeah, you're not supposed to smell the cork. Really, because people smell the cork to smell cork taint on the cork. That was really why.
Okay, there's a reason why they leave the corks next to me, correct?
They leave the corks next to you to me, it's to prove that the wine has been corked with a cork from the winery. Sometimes there's forgery. And also, if you decide to leave the restaurant without finishing the bottle, you can cork it, and a lot of restaurants will allow you to take it. So it's, to me, it's more of a pomp and circumstance thing.
Right.
It's not to smell for cork taint.
Okay.
So don't do that. Stop doing that, people.
Yeah, okay. You're not cool. I thought you were going to say, I thought you were going to rip him.
No, I try to be really nice.
I know that, but I wanted you to be mean.
Okay, I would definitely walk away. I would be like,
good.
You're an idiot.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
There it is.
All right, so keep going.
Yeah, so enclosures, basically ageability, that's where we were at. Ageability of a wine, what makes a wine ageable. So with red wines are typically more age-worthy than whites as a whole. Mm-hmm. You have to have a number of different components in a wine in general to make it age-worthy. Ready? So these have to be preservatives. Natural preservatives, not things that you're adding. So the first one is acid. Acidity in a wine. Think about pickling something. Think about vinegar. Well, just
I'll hang with you. I'll pretend
acidity
I know
in wine. Like
pickling.
if you're pickling something, you're using vinegar. It has really high acidity and it's preserving your vegetables or whatever for a long period of time. So high acid in a wine is a natural preservative. The second thing is tannin, and that's in red wine. So tannin is that mouth-drying sensation that you get after drinking a red, and tannin is a natural preservative as well. Think of tanning a hide.
Will the aging process make the wine more tannic or less?
Less, because tannins naturally precipitate out. They bind together. They form really long strands of tannin, and they feel softer as the wine continues to age.
Okay.
Have you ever popped something open and it has a lot of sediment at the bottom, and it's a very old, well, you're not drinking a lot of old bottles then, but if you are and you see sediment at the bottom, that won't hurt you. It's simply tannin and color that's bound together and precipitated out.
Good point, because I bet you people who've been to a wine bar or had experience and you see these flakes.
Don't freak out.
Okay.
Like you gotta relax and ask for it to be filtered out, because really getting a mouthful of sediment is not necessarily pleasant, but it won't hurt you.
Yeah. Okay. It has no real meaning on the quality of the wine.
Correct.
Okay.
It's actually perhaps encouraged, and a lot of people are not filtering their wines anymore. It's like unfiltered beer. You're seeing all these hazy styles of beer because filtration will sometimes remove flavor.
Okay.
So we've got acid, tannin.
Well, I just had a glass the other night that was, it was just a shocking amount of flakes. I didn't really, the wine was delicious. I didn't know what to make of it, so.
Yeah, I think, and a lot of people have strainers that they use. They pour it through, they filter it through. Unless you're drinking a lot of really old bottles. You're talking about people that have older styles. Yeah.
All right. John McClellan is the co-founder and creator of ATX Hot Sauce, now in all 50 states and several retail outlets as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to let this social media rock star chef walk us through 4 different sauces, and then I'll taste and we'll tell everyone why they should buy. You can give the science behind these, and then I'll make the simple recommendation. Go to atxhotsauce.com. All right,
I don't think
let's
anybody's
go.
heard the website.
Yeah, I know.
By you, Jeff, but it is atxhotsauce.com.
I'll say it
I got that one right.
45 times, atxhotsauce.com. So let's do it.
I brought 4 flavors here, and we're going to test your palate today.
Okay.
And I only brought 4 because I didn't think you could handle 5 or 6.
Yes,
probably a smart move. Yeah. And so the first one we're going to try here is called Beet Heat. And just like the name implies, it has beets in it. It's made with red Fresno peppers. Red Fresnos are red peppers that are they're hotter than a jalapeno and a little bit less than a serrano. So not super hot here, just a lot of really good flavor. So we're going to start with this one, and then we're going to move up the chain.
Okay. I've had the Beet Heat, but okay.
Yeah, we're going to try it though.
It goes well with a cab. All right, Jeff's savoring Beet
I'll
Heat.
even do it with you, so that should be all right. Now remember, it is hot sauce.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's hot sauce. Trust me, man.
Wait,
It's hot sauce.
is that one hot to you?
No, a little.
Yeah. The great thing with the fermentation process is you get a bunch of the flavor right up front.
Yeah.
And then the heat comes, but then it dissipates pretty quickly, especially with the red Fresnos. This is not a very spicy one, but it is a very tasty one. Goes on great on sandwiches.
Beet Heat.
Beet Heat. B-E-E-T. Heat.
All right. Go to atxhotsauce.com.
That's right.
So acid, tannin, in terms of age-worthiness, flavor intensity. Sometimes things are not necessarily that intense. Sometimes wines will taste watery. Perhaps they're not that concentrated. And that's all to do with grape growing. You really need that concentration of flavor to allow it to develop over time. What else? And complexity. I think if a wine starts out really simple and it has 2 aromas and 2 flavors, then you're really not going to get a lot of complexity.
When somebody says complexity, give some meaning to that.
Yeah, that's great, because complexity is one of those things that people throw
Yeah,
around.
I mean,
What the hell does that mean?
Exactly. I mean, I'm around. I think I know wine, but I'm around people who know a lot about wine, and you'll hear them just back and forth. It's so complex, so complex.
Yep.
I'm trying to look for complexity. Where's the complexity here? What is it?
So if somebody says a wine is complex, they're referring to the quantity of aromas and flavors that they are picking up in the wine.
Okay.
So for instance, one wine that's not complex may have an aroma of red fruit, like cherry, strawberry, and oak, like vanilla, clove. And that's...
What would give me time? I mean, what kind of grape would I encounter all of that?
It's not necessarily the grape. It's probably whether it's a bulk wine. Normally, if it's a mass-produced wine, it's not going to have that much intensity of flavor. It's not, the grapes may not be that ripe. It might be something to do with the style and that they're just chugging it out. So typically, that's more of a price point.
No, I mean,
factor.
that's that.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why you should go for something that's not mass produced is that there's just more to it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's not a complex wine. But so take the same variety, for instance, like say that's a Merlot, like a red fruit and oak, and then take a really well-made Merlot that has that has notes of still that red fruit, still oak, but also mint and chocolate, and more baking spice. Maybe there's a floral component. So it's basically 5 or more aromas that you're picking up makes a wine complex if you were to quantify it.
All right, good. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So take all these things: high acid, tannin, flavor, intensity.
Is it crazy that I can find a lot of times, and I try, and I've broken my nose so many times, so it's a little tough. I find I smell leather a lot.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it because it sounds so weird, but I can't get away from it.
Leather is
not bad. I mean,
it's an aging note, and it's very common.
Okay.
To find leather, especially in deeper, darker, richer red wines you're drinking.
Yeah.
I know you.
Yeah, that's my problem.
Yeah.
Stereotyping me already.
Hey, I know what you like.
I know. Okay, so keep going. All right, we got all that.
Yeah. So take a wine that might have one component or another component. I mean, honestly, you need that perfect scenario in order to age your wines for a long period of time. So what are things that have high acid, tannin, flavor intensity? Things like Cabernet. And not all Cabernet, everybody. Like, I think that people go, all Cabs can age and they can lay down for a long period of time. That's not the case. It's well-made Cabernet that has flavor intensity, because some of them don't. Things like, well-made Syrah, sometimes Burgundy, like a Pinot Noir, can have that. It has a little bit less tannin, but it makes up for an acid. So it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you have to have a specific level of each of the things that I mentioned. You just have to have a number of things working in harmony. Now let's talk about whites. Whites for age-worthiness. Not many whites can make it because you don't have tannin in whites. So that's a preservative. You have to have searingly high acid, however, and flavor intensity and complexity in order for them to go the distance. So a grape that is well known for aging a long period of time is Riesling.
I had an amazing Riesling recently.
You did?
Yes.
You?
Yes. Well, I didn't by choice. The table was doing it, and I think you had actually some impact on said table.
Oh, and I know who they were.
It was freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
I wanted to not like it, but
they took my class. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
They took my level 2 class and they fell in love with Riesling, and now they're like, "Can we do Riesling tastings?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Who are you people?" Because they started off as
I know,
bold
like
red.
dudes.
Here's what happens when you take my classes, everyone. You
It's a bunch of
become
dudes.
a Riesling lover.
Yeah.
You become a lover of things you didn't think you would ever love.
No,
and I'm
absolutely.
So proud.
Can you make a couple Riesling recommendations? Because I think most people have the stereotype that I had and said, Gatorade, Sprite, blah, blah, blah. And no. When it's good, it's, as you as you have lectured, it's really, really good. There's a lot to it.
So I sell Riesling. I sell French Riesling from Alsace, which is very German influenced. And I also love German Riesling. I also had one from the Finger Lakes that was really great too. Like there's Riesling everywhere. And so a few that I would recommend. And if you wanted to try anyone, my favorite Riesling in my portfolio is made by Mark Credenweiss, and it's a dry Riesling, not sweet, amazing. So reach out to me directly if you want it. I can ship it directly to your doorstep. You like that?
Yeah.
And my second one, which I do not sell, but I drink way too much of, does have sweetness. It's Maximum Grünhauser, and it's from Germany. It's from the Mosel region of Germany, and it's a little bit richer, and it's coming from a specific vineyard
That's
site.
what I had. I'm almost positive that's
You're
what I had.
kidding me.
No.
Max G.
I
Yeah,
guess.
so good.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, yeah, those are a couple of them. And then start exploring. Australia makes great Rieslings from the Clare and Eden Valleys. Again, Finger Lakes, Canada. So,
Okay. Yeah, I didn't mean to get you off on that, but I do think people should tap into your expertise on that because I think you would be, pleasantly surprised.
of course. And dry Riesling, too. Dry Riesling is becoming more and more popular because people aren't asking for sweet wines anymore.
Yeah, why is that?
Because you can get your sugar in pretty much every single source ever. So people are ready for dry. But I love sweet Rieslings when you're pairing with spicy food. That is a must. You cannot pair dry wines with spicy food. It will overwhelm the wine and make the wine taste very, very bitter. You need sweetness as a pairing. So I think of things like Thai food.
Interesting.
And Indian food with some spice. Any really strongly, richly flavored foods go really well with semi-sweet wines.
Okay, good advice. Mm-hmm. Talk about pairing with reds.
Okay. I love pairing with reds, especially reds with high acid and tannin, because on their own, you wouldn't necessarily want to sit down and drink them, but with food, they transform. The first thing I'll talk about is anything with protein. I think we all think of steak and red wine, dark meat, dark wine. Yes, but there's a reason why we do that biologically. And the fact of the matter is that the protein and salt, because most savory food will have salt, actually clogs your tannin receptors and makes the red wine seem smoother and fruitier. So that actually will calm down that perception.
What's your advice? And so you get a taste, or you're trying to pair something. Let's say you're having that, I don't know, a steak or whatever. So you get a taste, but how do you know enough and prepare enough to say, well, what I taste now is not going to be the same as when I pair with the food?
I think that comes with practice.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I wish I could give you some sort of tip or trick.
Okay.
But if you wanted to, sometimes I take elements that I have in my home, not necessarily the food itself, and I'll try it out. So as an instructor, we have a wine and food pairing component in our class, and that's my favorite component. But instead of taking real food, I'm taking elements that I'm finding in food. So for instance, salt. I take a pinch of salt. I take a sip of my wine first, and then I take a pinch of salt. I coat my mouth with salt, and then I'll go back to the wine, and I notice how that's going to affect it.
Okay.
It's really cool. You should try that at home. Next time you pop open something.
It takes, all right, take some salt, and
Yeah.
it'll prep you for how it's going to be with the food. Okay, so protein goes well with...
Not all. I'm talking red, darker.
Darker,
Like pair
yeah.
body with body. So if you're pairing food and wine, don't pair a light food with a heavy wine, and vice versa. It just won't work. And I'm talking about like the cab scenario is the most commonly found scenario. Cabs are typically fuller bodied, darker, richer wines, higher in alcohol. And to pair them with something like a poached fish makes no sense because you're going to completely overwhelm the fish. And so what you want to do is pair body with body. So I automatically think of things like oily duck, or meat in general, steak. I think that makes a lot of sense. Also, you can take something light like chicken and put a really flavorful, heavy sauce on it, and that also makes it a really great pairing. So I have a chef friend that actually pairs sauces with wines instead of the actual protein itself.
Because I was going to ask you, I know it's not everybody, but there's a lot of us that don't eat much meat at all. Let's just say you're vegetarian. I mean, is there a way to, if you're not a meat eater, if you're a light eater, is there a way to pair?
Yes.
Okay.
You can make vegetables dark and rich that will pair with a red.
Okay.
The way to do that is grilling them, I think, or choosing a savory vegetable like eggplant or something with umami like mushrooms. Also, taking a dark, rich sauce and pouring them over the vegetables will help help increase the body of those veggies and make them a better choice.
Pair body with body.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Tell people how to get a hold of you.
Sure.
You notice the music now. I mean, we've done.
I know. Now it's
like you're feeling.
I'm feeling. I'm like, this is my comfort zone here.
Exactly.
Is less of the metal.
Metal.
Yeah. So my name is Daniela Dasuta. You can find me on Instagram, Daniela Masters Wine, and that's Daniela with one L. Find me on Twitter, same thing. And I have a website. It's danielamasterswine.com.
Do you ever bring food to any of your classes?
Sometimes I do. Most of the time I tell people what to order. Like I bring the wines and then if people want food, I tell them what to pair it with.
I just know reaction from when you're on is people seemed overwhelmingly. It's something I didn't anticipate because maybe I don't cook myself. So how many people are really trying really, really hard to pair properly?
So many.
Yeah.
I've done so many private events. I do a lot of events at country clubs where we'll do a 6-course wine dinner, and I have to communicate with the chef on what's going to go well because I have a lot of kind of delicate wines, and I'm like, okay, we need to be careful with this, otherwise my wine won't taste good, and the wines are sometimes up to $400. So let's be very cognizant of what we're doing. I work very closely with people, make sure we have the correct food and wine pairing, and then when all else fails, meat and cheese boards, baby.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Chocolate? No? Because it doesn't work. I don't know why I fell for that. Again, drinking a big red.
Well, the chocolate, you have to be careful with sweetness because chocolate has sugar. And so I paired dark chocolate with red wine because remember when I said don't pair sweet foods with dry wines? If you have milk chocolate, you need a sweet wine with it.
Yeah,
if you have dark chocolate, you can get away with something that is drier.
Okay.
Yep.
What's the most expensive wine that you've ever had?
Oh, I have to think about that. Oh, geez. I've had first growth Bordeaux's, which are arguably the best Bordeaux's ever made, and those are a few $1,000.
Nice.
But those, did I purchase those? No, I know wealthy people.
I recently had, I'm not a port person by any stretch.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know enough. I know there are people that are into ports, maybe increasingly into ports. It was a port from 1964.
Amazing.
Oh my.
Yeah, they're amazing.
Oh my. So, it's like drinking gold.
It is. I'm getting married in Portugal, in the Port region, in the Douro. And not because I'm necessarily a diehard port fan, but because I like the dry reds and whites, and I also wanted to bring back port that will age for a very long time, bring back a case, and we'll open a bottle
most of us, our experience is it just sucks. So I don't know. I know. I mean, I don't know why I had this.
Port is the most.
Now, then again, not many of us are going to go throw down $5,000 to have a bottle of port from 1964. And he said, "Hey, look at the label."
It doesn't cost that much, though. That's the great thing about old port is that it never costs that much because there's not that much of there's not that high of a demand for it because it's sweet. So I can find really great value items that are, from this 50s, 60s that are gonna cost maybe high 400s, whatever, but nothing higher than that, which is really pleasant.
Yeah, that's great. Well, we'll do this again. There's a bunch of crazy people trying to log on because we do a thing called Songs That Suck.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay.
See that red jacket over there? I put that on for the segment. It's like a game show.
Why do you put that on? Oh, for a game.
Yeah.
Okay, to create the game show vibes.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. Oh, that's so fun. I might just sit around and
I hope
listen
you don't
to
like
these.
any of the songs because that's the bad part. You're not supposed to say I like them. It's
Actually,
songs that suck.
I have a
And
really
you actually
good.
win prizes.
No, I have a good taste in music. Like, not to be like a dick, but I really am very good at.
Really?
Yeah, I think
what,
my taste in music is very good.
You can sit right over there, and I'll put the red blazer on, and
Great.
you can be a judge, a participating
it's just
judge.
all my favorite songs, one after the other.
It's going to be every
essentially.
one of them probably suck.
Okay, cool.
How old are you? 19? Right?
I'll be 30 in a few weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oof. I don't know. I hope these fit in. You may not recognize them.
From the Hot Pie Media Studios in Austin, Texas, it's the Jeff Ward Show. Listen at jeffwardshow.com.